I'm going to talk a little bit about the specific parts of an application. So what you should expect to submit when you are applying to law schools in the United States. All right, so as my colleague Sharnaz mentioned, every law school has different requirements. So it's very important to look at the specific degree that you are applying for and also each individual law school. But in general, most of us require the same thing. So you will have an application form, transcripts or diplomas showing your degrees from Spain. You'll also have your resume or your curriculum vitae, your test scores. So as we've mentioned already, some schools do require English language testing requirements to show that you have a level of English that will allow you to be successful in the programs. And depending on which program you're applying to, you may be required to take the law school admissions test. That's typically only for Juris Doctor programs in the U.S. You'll also submit letters of recommendation and a personal statement. So again, I think we've already mentioned this, that there's typically two ways to apply to a program. You can either submit your full application through the Law School Admission Council, and their website is here on the screen, or some schools, like Wake Forest, allow you to apply directly to them as well. So again, that's a question that you just want to check with the schools. Their website should list exactly what they expect in terms of how you apply. As I mentioned earlier, you will have to submit copies of your Certificado de Notas and your diplomas. You will also submit a copy of your resume, and then the test scores. We've already said this, every school varies. So I know there was some questions in the chat about the required level of English, and that will depend on the school. But in general, most law schools are requiring TOEFL scores somewhere between 92 and 100, and IELTS scores between 6.5 and 7. But it could go higher or it could go lower. So again, that's something to look at each individual law school for. And then, as I mentioned, if you are applying for something like the Juris Doctor degree, then that's where you would want to look to see if the law school admissions test is required for you. So to get a little more deeply into letters of recommendation, most schools are requiring at least 2 letters, and these are written on your behalf from persons who know you best. You know, we typically say that, you know, we don't necessarily want to have the most famous person writing you a letter. We want the people who know you best to write the letter for you. So the ideal persons are either your professors who you worked closely with during your studies, or an employer if you're already working in the legal field. Someone that can really talk about your abilities as an attorney, your abilities in the academic setting, and why you would be successful in a law program in the United States. These letters are typically sent privately to the schools directly. So either they are submitted directly to the Law School Admission Council if you are applying through them, or they would be sent directly to the law schools where you are applying. So you may not see a copy of the letter that's being written about you. So keep that in mind. The personal statement is probably the document that tends to confuse most people. This is the only point in the application where you, as the applicant, get to tell us about you in your own words. So we know about you because of your transcripts and your grades. We know about you because of your resume or what your recommenders have said about you, but this is where you tell us why you're doing this program. What do you want to accomplish with the degree that you're applying for, and also why are you a good fit for the law schools to which you are applying. This is another area where you want to make sure that you're checking the school's requirements. Some schools have very general requirements for the personal statement. They leave it up to you to tell us what you want about who you are. And some schools have specific questions that they want you to answer. So always check that. Always make sure to proofread your personal statement to make sure that you're mentioning the correct law school to which you're applying, and that you have made sure that you're providing the best writing sample for us, because we also look at this to see about your English writing abilities. Typically these are about 2 to 3 pages in length. And keep in mind that it will be read by different people within the law school. It could be read by admissions professionals. It could be read by a faculty committee that's reviewing your application. So just remember your audience when you're writing that letter. And just a few reminders, again, we can't say it enough, every law school is different. So one thing to be very careful about are the deadlines. Every law school has a different deadline for when you can apply for the following year. Some schools, it says early as December the previous year, and some schools are more flexible or have deadlines as late as May or even June. So again, check each law school's website carefully. Those deadlines are important, and if you miss them, you might not be considered for that program. Also, there are many deadlines to apply if you want to be considered for scholarship. So it's very, very important that you meet those deadlines and make sure that you have your full application in. Keep in mind that most schools cannot review your application or make a decision on you as a candidate until all of your documents have been submitted. So that means you have to submit every required document that the school has listed, and then once your application is completed, then they can start processing your application for review. Oops. And then I just have one more slide. Catherine, can you take it back over and show my last slide?
Sure.
So those are the parts of the application. And then the slide that...
Okay.
The slide that's coming up is just specifically about Wake Forest University School of Law. We are located in North Carolina on the East Coast of the United States, and we do have one of the longest running LLM programs for international attorneys. We also offer what we call a 2-year Juris Doctor degree, so it's a more advanced JD for students who have already studied a degree in law elsewhere. We also offer the SJD, which is a PhD in law, mostly for academics. And we do have visiting positions available for students or researchers who want to come over for a shorter time. You can read the slide there, and then I'm very happy to talk with you again after this presentation and to help answer questions. Thank you so much.